One thing that I have always been fascinated by is capturing the depth of a moment. You could call that improvisation, but to me, it encapsulates the dilemma of choice. It makes the sweetest thing out of the most sour deficiency there is, which is time. And because of time, and because there's pressure to hurry up and do the best thing you can with the limited time you have, then there's a pressure to make the correct choice. But once you understand that every choice is of equal weight, and we live in a completely unconditional situation, then the value of choice becomes whatever you make it. And that is so complex to me that it's tragically beautiful. It's the pinnacle of all pursuits in my eyes. How do you make the death of a moment worth it? How do you put value onto something that innately has no value or all value? And maybe that is the moment between complete stagnation and performance, because you might as well make the most of what you've experienced so far. In my case, that being the traditional arts. And I love the devotion of traditional arts, be it ballet or music or stand up. Achieving something in the classical realm to me shows dedication to what they say is a valueless moment. Like you might as well engage yourself with what the people who came before you considered to be valuable. So I learnt all the dance moves that I could. I went through a period where I rebelled against my ballet training, and I learnt how to roll around, and I learnt how to do street dancing to the best of my ability as a very skinny white girl. And I learnt everything that I could possibly pour into my frame to increase the vocabulary that I had inside of my system in order to produce the infinite dance. But there's two ways to reach the infinite. One is by learning everything you can, and one is by unlearning everything you know. And when it comes to infinity, one of those options is actually a lot closer, and it's the unlearning one. And so I spent all this time unlearning my ballet training in order to arrive at the infinite dance. And now that I have that as a container, well, the infinite becomes a vocabulary of its own. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with that now? And if you don't have vocabulary, then you don't have translation, and you don't have communication. And what's the point if you're not communicating with your fellow humans? Who am I without the performance? I swear, this is the exact rut that I find myself at the bottom of every spiritual pursuit and every ceremony, every time I've ever taken plant medicine, I end up at this same dilemma, which is the binary dilemma of creation. It's the fact that oil and water don't mix, right? This is the vision. It's Jesus parting the sea and then the sea coming back together, but the sea was red on one side and blue on the other side. And no matter how much you try and mix the water, it's all red dots and blue dots. It never actually turns purple. And that's the thing about things that aren't real. It's that I can't convince myself that this is really happening and that it means anything. Even though it curses through me and I cry and I laugh and I get angry and I love to eat, the fact of it not being real is very true to me. And so then I don't know if I'm real. And so then I want to articulate that through art. I want to articulate the way that a moment dies. But I want to do that in the most extravagant, ridiculous way, which also means that a moment dying is probably the least significant thing there is also, which is so sad. Maybe it's because I feel insignificant. Is that really obvious? Bro. All right. Let's see if we can designate a hierarchy of good ways to mark the death of a moment. Oh, how good's this? When you've had a big night out with friends and the next morning you wake up hungover with like 5 randoms. Not randoms, but maybe they were people that weren't really your closest friends, but you guys were the ones that wanted to stay out the latest and got the drunkest. And so you wake up the next morning closer than ever before, and you hadn't done that in a lucid state. And now you have this unspeakable bond, and you, 2 of you are a bit less hungover than the others. So they make the vow to go out on a mission to find coffees for everyone. And of course it's Sunday and it's like 3 p.m. So all the coffee shops have already shut down and they have to go on this epic journey to find the coffees and bring them back. And they choose something really random. So, or they either come back with like sausage McMuffins or croissants, but there were only like cheese horns left in the store. That's a good way to mark the death of a moment. Man, one of the most insane moments I've ever had was I was sitting on a lake, the edge of a lake with a lover, and we were looking out onto this lake, and then a rain cloud came towards us, but full straight. It fully swept horizontally towards our faces, and it had rain in it. And so, but it moved so fast that it looked like thousands of fish were storming towards us. And then it rained onto our heads. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Never going to have a moment like that again. Can guarantee that will never happen again. Best ways that a moment could die. What's some of the worst? Oh, here's a shit way to watch a moment die. Is watching a bunch of seasoned performers do something that they know how to do really well, but they've done it one too many times. And so they've like left the body and they're not in the performance. What happens when the death of a moment isn't honored on the stage? For me, what happens is I start to think about what I could do during this show. I start to imagine myself stripping down naked, running onto the stage and throwing my shoes at the performer and really making a scene to bring the moment alive, you know? Because the best, Ohad Naharan, the head of Batch of a Dance Company, who I greatly adore, he once said, I've seen some shows that made my life shorter. And I thought that was one of the most hilarious, accurate statements, because it is true. Just as a side note, I do wonder, like, what percentage of people in the opera audience actually like it? And what percentage of them are there to perform the concept of liking the opera? I know that's a hot take. I don't know. I know there's people that like really love it, but I do wonder if like some of the people that love it actually just love to be people that love it, because it doesn't feel that good on the ears.